Now, moving along, so what's the basis? Where is there a discussion of the Tachash in the Talmud? Before we get to that, I could say, Rashi says that this Tachash is this creature that was only created for that moment. It's because there's no other reference to the Tachash in the 5 books of the Torah. But if anybody actually would tell you that, they would be inaccurate. Actually, this morning when I was writing the Torah, I'm writing a different portion, and I wrote the word Tachash. Does anybody know where else the word Tachash appears in the Torah? So it appears at the end of Parashas Vayera, and there at the end of the Parasha Vayera, it says that Nahor has a wife, but he also has a concubine. Nahor's wife, he has a wife, but he also has a concubine. The concubine's name is Milcah, and the concubine's name is Reumah. And Reumah has an offspring whose name is Tachash. Also, the only time the Tachash appears, minor figure. And then as we'll see in a few moments, hopefully we'll see that Tachash also appears in the book of Ezekiel. So what's the connection to this minor figure Tachash and also this creature that appears once? Is there a connection? Well, it's not apparent, but I think there may be. So we go to Talmud Tractate Shabbos. Talmud Tractate Shabbos 28a has a discussion. The Talmud's discussion is as follows. Talmud wants to know what type of materials are able to become tamei, so much so that they're called a tent. And therefore, anything underneath them is also automatically tamei, from ritually impure, from something that's inside the tent. Meaning to say, not every item can make this tent, can turn into a structure that anything underneath it would automatically, if there's a dead body, everything in it would become ritually impure. So the Talmud says that because the reason why it gets on this tangent, because the Talmud says anything that comes out from a tree is not going to be able to serve as in this category of making whatever is underneath it tamei, except for pishtan. Pishtan is typically translated as flax. Fine. So what's the source for this idea that something that grows out from a tree is not categorized as a tent? So the Talmud tells us, says Rabbi Elazar, we learn it out from the word ohel, that it appears in the within the context of the Mishkan, of this sacred tent that Moshe Rabbeinu built. It says here, this is the law of a person who dies in a tent. Zot Torah Adam Kamut Ba'ol. And it says, Vayifros et ha'oel al ha'mishkan, that they spread the oel on the Mishkan. Just like there, Ma'alan shall pishtan karoi ohel, just like over there, with respect to the Mishkan, we're going to say that something that's made out of pishtan is called ohel. So to here, also, the pishtan is called ohel by the tumas olim. So therefore, that's the source. So the Talmud then goes on to a discussion of this and says, well, but other things. So the Gemara then asks the question, if that's the case, the Talmud says, what about the fact, we have to read it, the Talmud says, it says also, that you shall make a covering for the tent. And this covering is going to include within it the skins of the rams that are dyed and the skins of the orot techashim l'amala. Should we also learn out from this that mechsei lo ikre ohel, that a covering is not called ohel? But what about the fact that there's another question that Rabbi Eliezer asks? The skin of a non-kosher animal, is that able to make a tent? And so they said, but since the skin of a kosher animal cannot become tamei, do you really need to ask about a non-kosher animal? So the Gemara then goes on to a discussion, and it talks about the Tachash. And so therefore we say that the Tachash is called an ohel. So the Gemara then discusses this. what is the nature of this tachash? So gufa by Rabbi Elazar or behema tamea. He asked the question: the skin of this non-kosher animal, maoshe tame tumas olin, is it able to become this tent, which a dead body in it would make the tent tamei and everything in it tamei? And the Gemara asked the question: my kami ba'olin. What is the question of Rabbi Elazar? He himself taught that only those things that are, he himself said, we learn out from the Mishkan that only those things that were in the Mishkan are going to be considered like an OL. And the cover of these skins come from kosher animal. And so therefore only those skins can become tamei for the tent. So Amar Ava, Adabar Ava, so the Gemara said that's our question. Tachash shehaya bimei Moshe, this tachash, which was in the days of Moshe, is it a kosher animal or was it a non-kosher animal? And that's the question, because we want to know if a non-kosher animal's skin can be categorized as a tent or not. So we want to know if this tachash that was used to cover the tent of Moses, whether or not it was a kosher animal. So Rabbi Yosef says that's a ridiculous question. My tibale, what kind of ridiculous question is this? We learned the only type of substance somebody could use in the holy work of the heaven was a kosher animal. You're not going to use a non-kosher animal for the tachash, for the mishkan. It would not be possible. So the Gemara then goes into a discussion of this. How could you say that the tachash was a kosher animal? But didn't we learn in the verse that it states, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shnei mechsal sayu, there were two coverings. We just cited this from Rashi. And he says that these two coverings, one was of the skins that were dyed red, and one was from the tachash. And Rabbi Nechemiah says that these two halves were both made Doma kamin tula ilan. He says it a little bit differently than the way I explained the Rashi before. That remember I said that Rabbi Yehuda was saying that the way I explained the Rashi before is Rabbi Yehuda says that there were three covers, and there was the goat cover on the bottom, then the ram skin, and then on top of that the tachash. But here. And then Rabbi Nechemiah said it was half tachash, half ram. But here we're saying a different answer. He's saying michseh achad haya. This Rabbi Nechemiah is saying that this half that was ram and this half that was the tachash was actually one integrated cover, and meaning to say vidome kamin tula ilan, that half of it was made from the red skins, and half of it was made from the tachash. And this tachash, Rabbi Nechemiah says, was doma kamin tela ilan. It was comparable to this animal, which in Aramaic is called a tela ilan. What is a tela ilan? It's not clear, but it seems, according to the Aruch, that this tela ilan was this type of creature that was similar to a cat, and it was spotted with many different colors. And the tela ilan, we know, is a non-kosher animal. So Rabbi Nechemiah is saying that one of the covers of this Mishkan was this non-kosher animal, which we call a tela ilan. So the Gemara says, no, he wasn't saying it was an actual tela ilan. It was kamin tela ilan. It was similar to this tela ilan. Why? Sheyesh givanin arbe, because it had many colors like this other creature. But it wasn't an actual tela ilan, because the tela ilan was not kosher and the tachash was kosher. And so then Rabbi Yosef said, if that's the case, that's why we're going to translate it as Hainu Dimitar Gaminon Saskona. That's why the tachash is called in Aramaic the Saskona. Shesas begavanin harbe. It has many different colors, many different colors. And so therefore that's its similarity to the tela ilan, that there was this creature that had many colors, but it could be still kosher. And that's what that, and so therefore that's, so far, to summarize what we've said until now, we've basically said, we've said that the Tachash is this creature that looks like the Tela Elon. It's a creature with many, many different colors. If that's the case, we say, okay, so we'll pause here for a second. We'll say that the Tachash is this creature with many different colors. And we might start to think, well, why was this kosher animal with many different colors placed on top of the roof of the Mishkan? Maybe it's to symbolize many different tribes of the Jewish people worshiping inside of it, the many different colors that we serve Hashem with the color of our life. There's only one major problem. What's a kosher animal with many different colors? What could it possibly be referring to? What's this kosher animal with many different colors? And not that many kosher animals. They're not that many. There's the sheep, the cow, the goat. Okay, what else is there? There's giraffe, maybe. Okay, so what's the kosher animal that that's referring to that has many different colors? Can anybody name one? What could it possibly be referring to? Even a bird. It's not a bird. It's not a bird. And there's no way that the skin of a bird could be stretched out to be this amount. So what could possibly be this kosher animal with many different colors? I'll pause for a moment, see if anybody has any questions, and then we'll continue.